Hey guys, so Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson are former NBA players with a combined $100 million in career earnings.
And now they host the All This Smoke podcast, which is one of the largest sports podcasts, and they've had guests like Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, Kevin Hart, Shaq, and many more.
In this episode, we talk about the overwhelming amount of money in the sports industry and how, unfortunately, a lot of it goes to waste. So if you're interested in episodes just like this, make sure to subscribe because we post a brand new video every single week.
So first off, you guys may notice we're using two different size mic stands here because these are the biggest guests we've ever had on the podcast.
The tallest.
The tallest guests we've ever had on the podcast. It's an honor. We have Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, former NBA players. According to Google, it says you guys have a combined earning of over $100 million.
They must be lying.
Is that true? That's what Google says.
Combined?
Yeah.
A lot of money, yeah, maybe.
I didn't know it was that much.
It was I saw 65 and 35. That's exactly what I saw.
I thought someone was lying. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, that is absolutely incredible. And now you guys have a massive podcast, All the Smoke. It's one of the biggest sports broadcasts out there right now. And it's an honor to have you guys here on the Iced Coffee
Thank you guys so much
Hour.
for coming.
Thanks for having us, man.
So we got to talk a little bit about your backstory and how you got started in this, how you guys met, and a little bit about the business aspect of coming up in the athletics.
Jack
space.
and I met. Jack got traded from Indiana, Golden State, where I was at the time, and during the 2006-2007 season, like the end of January, February, instantly, we just bonded and made NBA history during that season with the being the first number 8 seed in a 7-game series to ever be the number 1 seed. The very next season, my mom died from cancer, like really fast within a month, and Jack was one of the main guys that just took time away from the team and was traveling back and forth to see my mom. But every single day I was there, Jack brought me food, brought me weed, came and just sat and talked. Sometimes we didn't say nothing. He was just there for me, and that went from teammates to a real life brother. And fast forward, we both had 14-year careers and went into the media space, messing around with Fox and ESPN, and we were getting a lot of positive feedback. We were at my house in the Bay one time and kicking back, and I was just like, do a podcast. He's like, what's a podcast? I was like, I don't know, but I know.
I don't know, but people are doing it. Joe Rogan just made $100 million.
I was like, I know we can drink and smoke and cuss, and we couldn't do that on our other platforms. So he said, let's do it. And, now we're about going on 3 years now, and Sports Podcast of the Year, and it's just been a great experience and learning experience at the same time.
Shout out Danielle, his sister.
My sister came up with the name, yeah.
It's a good name.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great name.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, did you always think you would play basketball? I think you started with football.
I was a football
right?
guy. Yeah, I was diehard football. Picked up basketball because I kept getting taller. But I knew somehow, some way, one of those two sports were going to be my profession. And growing up in a household in an environment of drugs, abuse, violence, I just knew that my path was always going to be different. So although I saw everything, I was someone who started smoking weed at about 14, but that was about as deep as I went into it. I was just really locked in on sports.
And how about you, Steven? Always basketball?
I think, it was always basketball. My city and my parents, my family saw something in me that I didn't know I had at a young age. And they put a basketball in my hand. Obviously, my family, they knew I had something different, and they kept me around it. They kept me out of trouble. And like I said, they seen something in me that I didn't even know I had as young.
What age was that? How old are you?
So it started at 5 for me. When I was 5 years old, I played in the game at the YMCA. The score was 44-40, and I had 42 points at 5.
So you always been a ball hog?
Yeah, I always been a ball hog.
Yeah.
and around that time, everybody was like, hold up, this kid really has something. And from then on, my city treated me like I was an NBA prospect. It worked out that way.
So there was like a time where you realized, okay, I could do this for a living. This is, my most likely career.
Yeah, because I fell in love with it, and I knew I was good at a young age. And playing basketball, once you fall in love with the game, you start to fall in love with the NBA and the players in the NBA, and you start to have idols, and you start to pattern your game after players. And I started that like any other kid that played basketball. Nobody knew it would get to the NBA. I ended up going out of high school. But like I said, people around me, my high school coaches, my parents, they knew that I was on my way there, but I didn't see it.
What's it like getting a deal, getting your first, bonus?
I want to know where that money
work?
went. You guys know GQ, My First Million?
I've seen,
Let's
That's
reenact
a
a
fun
little bit of
series.
what you guys did with your first million.
Like, what was
Big
the
cut.
first signing check?
Well,
What's the process like? How do they find you?
I'm gonna give you this
with it?
first one. I'm gonna give you two.
Yeah.
My first, I signed with the Phoenix Suns. They gave me a check for $25,000 cash. This was in '97.
Blew it all in one day.
I blew it all in one day.
Oh,
Me and
man.
Mike Bibby, his sister and my little brother went to the mall and bought everything we could find. I think when I got back to the house, I probably had like maybe $4,000 or $5,000. Damn near blew it all in the mall. That was my first check. But when I signed my 6-year deal with the Pacers, first thing I did was bought my mom and my grandmother a house.
Yeah, my first, I was a guy that came in on minimum deals. You know what I mean? So my deals were 300, 400, 500,000, the first few years. And to be honest with you, at the end of every summer, I was broke, because financial literacy is something that's talked about often now, but you think late 90s, early 2000s, it wasn't talked about. We talked about houses, cars, jewelry, women, everything, but how to save what we're all working for. So, with no background, I came from food stamps and drugs, so I didn't really have any kind of representation that showed me, okay, we'll put this away and save this and do this, invest this. So like Jack said, when it came in, it went out even faster. So it took me about maybe going into year 4 or 5 maybe to really start understanding, okay, I'm going to get this amount and put this aside. I never really made any, huge, I got my mom and dad cars. I got myself a house. But yeah, so I really didn't go crazy. I wasn't a jewelry guy. Like I said, I bought a house, bought my mom and dad some cars. And that was kind of understanding, like, I have money, but I don't have a ton of money. You know what I mean? So let's kind of see if we can space this out.
And when did the money really start rolling in from the pro basketball careers?
Those first couple of years, I won a championship with the Spurs in '03. I was expecting to get paid after that year, and I didn't. They paid somebody else, so I had to go to the Atlanta Hawks for the minimum and play again just to prove myself to get paid. So, and I got paid that following year in Indiana. But it was a blessing. But like he said, it took me about 6 years in my career to understand how to even think about generational wealth. Like when we was growing up, that word never even came around. Nobody in my family ever thought about saying generational wealth, right? So it took me being around people and having financial advisors 6, 7 years in my career to start thinking about saving for a rainy day.
Yeah, and I think my light turned on when I started having kids. So I came in the league at like 21. I had twins at 28. So probably 7, 8 years in is where I realized, okay, there's got to be a future here. Although I hope my kids are, great at whatever they do and they get scholarships just in case, so it started being less about me and more about obviously my kids after that. And that's what kind of turned the light on for me.
So when you were playing, what was the schedule like day to day? Like how much training were you putting in? How much were you putting into like diet, exercise?
I think it's different in all that. It's different for everybody. And again, when we first came in the game, there wasn't that kind of talk. Like it's regular now. You know what I mean? Like during the summertime, we played basketball and smoke weed. Like that was really
That's our workout.
how every
Wow.
I'd say majority of the NBA was, and not till I was lucky enough to play until 2017, and to me it probably started changing around 12 or 13, where diet was important, and all these other nuances of the game started coming in to kind of preserve your career. But like I said, not that we're old school, but almost like kind of the old school as far as it was basketball and weed for us. It wasn't weight training. It wasn't training all the time. It just wasn't what it was at the time. And so it's so far advanced now where I have kids that are, 13 and they're training, 3 to 4 times a week now. And that was really more than I was training when I first got in the NBA.
And how important do you think all those tangential exercises and practices make you at basketball? How much does that improve your game? Is it extremely important?
It works. I mean, you anything you put hard work into, you're going to get something out of it. And especially with basketball, I mean, that's why Kobe was so great. He put in the time. That's why LeBron's so great. LeBron spent $1 million on his body a year just to be great.
$1 million on his body?
That's a bargain,
on
man.
maintenance.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Just maintenance.
Just
He has
the right foods, the
yeah.
right trainers,
The right
all year
therapists,
round,
doctors.
though. Not just eating
Right.
during the season.
I'm sure you get like massages, chiropractors.
Right.
Everybody
That's
right on hand.
Well, that's why you see, he's going into year 20 and he's been great his entire career. We've seen
30.
we've seen a lot of great players play for a long time, but have we ever seen someone play at the level that LeBron has been able to play for so long?
Yeah.
And obviously that's to what he does off the court and his upkeep. So, I mean, I think it's very beneficial. Obviously, again, it wasn't something that we were major into really toward the end of my career. But, as like I said, being a father of twin boys who are teenagers now and I'm coaching them, I didn't work out for the NBA until I got to the NBA. That sounds crazy, but I just didn't. Like now my kids are training and I can see the drastic improvement week by week, month by month, year by year. And I'm just like, man, I wish I would have had this when I was younger because
training camp.
I didn't have that, and I still made the league and played 14 years. I couldn't imagine if this was something like my parents put me here and I knew what I was going to do and I had a regimen and all this kind of shit. It would have been a whole nother experience for me, I think.
So at what point in your guys' career could you call yourself like an actual liquid millionaire?
When like I said, like a year after I signed my big deal, around 7 years, when I actually went through that first year of that season and was able to see, $1 million in my bank account saved. That was the first time I ever saved $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Once I was able to put that away and knew I didn't have to touch it, and I still had checks and stuff coming in, I was able to say that.
Yeah,
But it don't mean shit.
yeah.
What was that like for you to see, though?
It's a gift and a curse because you feel good, but then you got people doing this now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no!
You know what I'm saying? And that's always the sad part because there's a lot of people that feel they're entitled now. Those same people that was telling you, you go ahead and you do this. You know what I'm saying? But we didn't make it off told you so's and keep going like LaRussell say. We made it off hard work and just meant for us to be here. But that's the sad part about it. You know how people feel like they're entitled to your money.
You got to, you take care of a village, if you're the one that's fortunate enough to make it. And the hardest thing to do is, being able to tell people no. Really the hardest thing to do is being able to tell family no. Yeah. It's tough. You know what I mean? I can tell I have friends that I've helped and they're all appreciative, but I'd never had a problem be like, okay, we're good. But, obviously when you have to tell your family no, that's a different level. And I think all people coming into money, not just athletes, have to understand that because, again, everyone feels like they're entitled to, if they've been around the whole time, they feel like they're entitled. So being able to tell people no is big. But same thing, 6-7 years into the game and being able to save it and see it, was important. But, again, I still didn't have a plan with it. You know what I mean? So although I saw it, I spent it.
I said it once and I'll say it again. Henson razors have given me the cleanest and smoothest shave I've ever had in my entire life.
Henson's a family-run aerospace machine shop that has brought precision engineering to razors. The razors have a precisely built handle that securely holds the blade. This firm grip on the blade combined with an extremely precise extension means you'll get not only a safer but a cleaner and closer shave. And if you're interested in shaving money, you're only going to spend between $3 and $5 a year, which is way less than all of those other subscription services.
No subscriptions, no proprietary blades, and no planned obsolescence. Only having to replace an inexpensive blade and not the whole cartridge, or in some cases, the entire razor, just makes sense.
I personally hate the idea of waste, and when you combine that with the money you save with Henson, it's truly unmatched. Plus, it's fully metal and uses standard dual-edged blades that you could buy practically anywhere.
Seriously, guys, we're going off script here, but since they sent us the razors, that's literally all I've used to shave, and I gotta say, it is the cleanest shave I've ever had in my entire life. When I run it over my neck, it doesn't even feel like I'm shaving. It just somehow the hair just disappears. It's time to say no to subscriptions and yes to a razor that'll last you a lifetime. So visit hensonshaving.com/icedcoffee to pick the razor for you and use code ICEDCOFFEE and you'll get 2 years worth of blades for free with your razor.
Just make sure to add them to your cart.
That's 100 free blades when you visit hensonshaving.com/icedcoffee and use code ICEDCOFFEE at checkout. Thank you so much, Henson, and back to the podcast.
How often does that come up that family or close friends ask for money?
Man, it's been happening since I was a late teenager.
4 times since I've been here. I've been at your house 4 times.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of short on some cash.
Is it, is it like
Okay.
directly asking, like, hey, man, I'm really struggling to make rent this month. Can I please just have some
depends.
money?
Everyone
Or
It
is
might
it
not even be
kind
the
of
truth.
just like,
It might be a lie. It might be a
like
told.
guilting into it?
Everyone has their own angles. Some people go right to it, text you like, "Hey, can I have some money?" Some people ask how your day is going first.
Some people call you Thursday and ask you, and just to know because they're going to ask you Monday.
They're gonna set you up. So again, everyone has their methods in rhyme and reason and asking, and some people you say yes to, and some people I just I ain't got it. Even if I do have it, because I just don't feel like giving it to you.
So you're saying they'll try to buddy up to you ahead of time, and then
Yeah, they act like
then
they care
a
what's
week
going
later,
on.
think like, oh, by the way, man, we've been
They
hanging
planted
out,
the
but-
seed last week to
Yeah.
ask us this week.
And then it's a different situation when you grow up around a lot of guys that, that didn't make it and didn't reach their potential. So the first thing they're going to say is, oh, man, you changed. Yeah, I did. Honestly,
That's why
I
I
was
worked so
broke with
hard.
you. I ain't broke no more. I worked hard and got myself some money and put my family in a different position. So, and they try to use that against you as like a
Guilt trip.
Yeah, like a guilt trip. Like you changed. You're right. I did change. I worked hard and I changed to get myself out of a better position. But that's stuff you have to deal with in the areas we come from. You have to grow some tough skin because everybody gonna feel like they're entitled to what you work for.
Yeah.
Now, this may be a little nosy, but is there like a specific example that you guys like think of when you think of people asking for money? Maybe it was like your assistant coaches, like brother-in-law or something like that.
I'm ready for that one.
Oh,
Say
man.
one. Say one. I want to hear it.
Okay.
I had a church. I was before I turned Muslim, I was a Christian, and my grandfather basically ran a church my whole life. So I grew up in the church, and as they got older, they couldn't run a church, so they brought in another pastor from outside to run our church. Well, he ended up stealing money, ended up kicking my grandfather to church, where the church was in debt, all kind of stuff. When I first made it, this guy told my mom, I had a vision. I want you and Stevie. They call me Stevie. I want you and Stevie to meet me over here at the store, at the abandoned store. I had a vision. I want to tell you about my vision.
You fell for it too.
No, my mom did.
Oh, no.
I was at Raw D house rolling up. She was like, come over here and actually I was. She was like, come over
You
here.
were what?
Yeah.
We'll come back to that.
I want you got to come somewhere with me. We're going to see what Reverend Washington wants. We get to the place. He tells my mom he had a vision that God told him for me to give him $1 million to turn this broken down Safeway grocery store into a church.
And
What kind of bullshit was that?
yeah, what?
God didn't give you no vision for me to give you $1 million of my hard-earned money for you to build a church that I ain't gonna never go to.
But it worked.
It did not work.
Oh, okay.
No, he didn't get a dime. My mama
makes
cursed him out, all that, and
Okay.
What
I haven't
happened?
talked to him since.
Why'd she curse him out? What happened there?
Because
she brought you to him, right?
Right? But
Yeah.
she didn't think it was that.
Oh.
She didn't think he was going that far with asking for $1 million. Okay, 15, 20, help the community, something like that. $1 million? You lost your rabbit. That's mine.
Oh
That's
my
not a small
gosh.
ask.
That's not
okay.
a small ass.
We glanced over the selling crack parts. Can you, what?
It's so crazy hearing that come from your mouth.
What?
Here's something.
It's like it's a button up, you know what I mean? No, but it's a.
Good, I'm trying to loosen up a little bit.
No, it's
here.
good. It's good.
We're the
I
group
wanna
to
ask
loosen
it.
up
I
with.
want- yeah.
Growing up where I'm from, I was around it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? My partner, my guy John Johnson, rest in peace, he used to take care of me. So there's a lot of things I used to do for him involving that to make money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was no different from everybody else in my neighborhood. Everybody did that. So I was just blessed to have basketball to get away from
For
it.
sure.
Yeah, and that was that's the biggest blessing.
Yeah,
What
I-
age was that at about?
Probably from 14 to 18, 19.
14?
Yeah.
How much were you making doing that?
It depends. I wasn't the actual source. So I was
Okay.
doing different things. So I can
You were like were you doing a
$300, $200. Like
You
that
were
was
just-
a lot
That's
of money.
good money. I mean,
No, I was 14, 15
Yeah.
years old. $200
Yeah,
go a long way.
Oh man,
I
what?
can get an ounce of weed for $50.
wow.
That's gonna last the rest of the week.
And buy some pizza, buy some shoes.
And I go buy some shoes. Yeah, and I was getting $200-300 like almost every day. I was helping my mom with groceries. My mom worked from 6 in the morning to 6 at night, so I never seen her. We was at school when she was when she was home sleeping. We come home from school, she going to work, so I never seen my mom.
Did it ever scare you? Did you ever almost get caught?
You don't think about being scared. You think you surviving. So
That's just the way of life.
that's just the way of life.
It's
yeah,
in the bubble, that little
Survive.
bubble where that's just normal.
Yeah.
Survive.
I get that. Now, you mentioned earlier about the people who don't live up to their full potential and don't make it. Have you noticed anything within them that maybe they don't have a certain quality, or whether it was persistence or anything that got in the way that you feel maybe
It's a lot of them on social media right now, and I think the thing is with them is that they instead of working and putting the work in, they want to say why him and not me.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And it's a whole bunch of people saying that, but they don't know what you went through to get where you at.
for sure.
Right? So that's the biggest thing. People are like, why him and not me? Why he made it? We did the same things. Well, you don't know what I went through to get here.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just the biggest thing. Everybody, like I said, feel entitlement. It's entitlement.
And it takes a lot of luck. You know,
A lot
I've
of
seen
luck.
a lot of guys coming up that were better, just as good, and just made a wrong turn along the path. And that's why I think my family and friends were. I had friends die from overdoses and getting shot at and all kinds of other things. But like I said, although I was amongst that and in that, I was able to stay on that path, knowing that what my ultimate goal was and what the people around me wanted for me too. So along with what he said, it just takes a lot of luck, man. There's only been 5,000 NBA players in the history of the game.
5,000?
That's
On the what?
Yeah.
400
That
jobs,
is
300 some
way
jobs a
less than
year.
Yeah, you would
400,
think it'd be way more. I had no
400
idea.
jobs.
Wow.
There's only
I would have
four-
thought it'd be like 30,000.
Oh,
There's only like
wow.
400 jobs each season. You know what I mean? And so, the turnover, you're probably bringing in 100, 120 new guys every season and losing that many as well. So it's just a a lot of luck goes with it. You know, the average career is 2 to 3 years. You know what I mean? So to get past that and play double-digit years and be able to win, it was obviously a lot of God, a lot of hard work, but a lot of luck.
Best athletes are in prison. I'm just keeping it real.
Yeah.
No, let's hear it.
The best basketball players, the best football players are in prison. So if you talk to any athlete from NFL to baseball to basketball, they know somebody who was the coldest athlete they've ever seen growing up in my line that's in jail right now. Ask any athlete. They're going to be like, yeah, I got a guy, man, who I grew up with. He in jail right now, but I'm telling you, he's supposed to be in the league. And every guy going to say that. And we all grew up with guys like that made one bad decision. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? They ended up in jail the rest of their life.
Gosh. How does that mindset affect you today? Having that sort of, growing up in that sort of environment, does that stick with you? Or
makes you humble. Yeah, I'm not going back.
Yeah.
I'm not making no mistakes. I'm where we at right now, being able to be in this space with Showtime and Madness podcast. Like, we would be morons to play ourselves off this spot. You know what I mean? And we talk about it all the time. We not Hall of Famers, right? We are the guys that we are your favorite player, right? And we are guys that did the dirty work in the game. We're NBA champions, but we're not Hall of Famers. Normally, when you retire, Hall of Famers and All-Stars, guys that was on the commercials, get the jobs and the stuff that we are doing right now. You know what I mean? But the roles have reversed because we are more reachable and touchable than those actual stars. Like, we are the guys that hang out at the arenas and talk to everybody and sign all our autographs. So with doing that, it's paying us back. You know, we in this position now for a reason, because we always treated people with respect and we treated everybody how we wanted to be treated. So that's how it works for us, man. I mean,
I mean, I just think, obviously, understanding where you're coming from is always important, but the goal is to make it out.
Yeah.
And continue to elevate. And, that's what we've been able to do. Get the odds were stacked against us, and we were able to get out and have a long career. And then, for us to be able to make the splash we've made post-career in several different spaces, it's been dope. You know what I mean? But again, to always understand where you came from, and like Jack said, not wanting to go back.
Yeah.
That's the goal is, obviously if we're going to go back, you're going to help, but you're not going back to live on the level you came from.
Yeah. And where do you learn how to get the skills in terms of managing your money, investing it, making sure you're spending an appropriate amount?
Experience was the best teacher.
Right.
You know what I mean? Being broke in the summertime, not seeing my family not have when I know I'm making money. All those situations, experience is the best teacher, and I had to go through it to understand how to save, to want to save, to be able to be a crutch for my family. Like, seeing them not have, that made me focus on be able to be the breadwinner, be the backbone of my family. So knowing that where we come from, it's imperative that I be the best protector and provider that I can be, and it starts with me making better decisions.
And just for like again, coming from food stamps and not really having no money, to actually having money, even if you have a situation in place, but be a financial advisor, agent, everything, you never had nothing. There's nothing no one's gonna be able to tell me to say I can't spend my money. You know what I mean? So until you get to a point where you understand it's important to save and you really want to save. And I think that's what happens with a lot of athletes is, a lot of people have, the framework in place, but it's just like, man, we never had. And like Jack said, my family needs this. I want this. I work my hard. I want to reward myself for this. So it's just like, until you get it in your mind that, okay, there's a reason. For me, it was kids. There's a reason I need to start saving, or, okay, I'm old enough now, I want to start saving. Hopefully that's when the light comes on, and then that's when you kind of start after understanding and pull back and maybe change habits that you've been accustomed to for a long time. But just understanding this is a marathon, not a sprint. You know what I mean? And I think when I first got money, it was a sprint. Like I said, that shit, went out faster than it came in. So just being older and, you get wiser with age. And I think that's when it kind of kicks in for people.
It's interesting that the switch flipped for both of you guys with responsibility to other people, like financial responsibility to your kids or to your family. That was the main driving factor for you guys to be like, okay, got to start saving because I got to provide and protect. And I find that really interesting that it wasn't necessarily for yourself. You know what I mean? You're like, you may realize in the summer, like you said, you have no money and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I can't go to the fancy restaurant with all my teammates because I don't want to buy it or something. But it wasn't that. It was just responsibility to other people.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just always feel a sense of responsibility when you come from nothing. You know what I mean? Because although there's a lot of clingers, there are a lot of people that really helped you get to where you're getting to. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, okay, well, damn, he trained me all those years for free, or, You know, my mom and dad did so-and-so, or this guy did, you know what I mean? So you always have, you know, those kind of situations. So we're always going to feel not indebted, but just like, okay, you know, I got it, you're going to have it too type way. So again, until you kind of just figure out what that balance is, if you're able to do it for a long time, that's great. But if you have to scale back, those are the tough conversations you have to have with people, understanding, okay, you know, the money's not coming in the way it used to be coming in, so I'm going to have to scale back. That means, you know, your lifestyle is going to have to scale back. So it's a lot, and that's a lot of, again, a lot of athletes or musicians or, you know, people have to deal with that, and, you know, everyone deals with it different.
There's this segment I remember on this thing on YouTube. I forget what channel it is, but it's like the best and worst purchases that people make. I think it'd be kind of fun if you guys recollected on the best purchase, maybe, or one
Every
or two
piece
of
of
the
jewelry, every piece of jewelry I bought is the worst purchase I've ever.
What about what
Yeah,
about
that
what you're
thing was
wearing?
The
Yes.
worst. I still buy it, but it's the worst purchase I've
best.
ever.
Still buy it.
It's the worst purchase I've ever had. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not the guy. I don't have 10 cars. I got 2 cars. One
Can you
of
say
them.
what cars you have?
I have a Range Rover and a Mercedes, and my wife has a Range Rover. We're not into cars, and we don't have houses everywhere. So every now and then I buy myself a piece of jewelry, which that's my thing. But the dumbest thing to do if anybody listening.
It's not really obviously house. You know, to me, I'm not really
A bad purchase.
You know, so no, I'm
So
saying
he's
they
starting
said
with the
best.
best.
Yeah, he started
and then
with
he's
the
going.
worst.
Yeah, you know,
But then you can do the
He
worst,
said
yeah.
best. Yeah, I mean, house, and again, just the stability. You know, when you have to bounce around and move and live with family and all that kind of shit, live with friends, like a house is important. So obviously that's, you know, that's when I was able to buy my first house, I was like, okay, dope. Worst, I wouldn't say it was worst purchase, because again, I'm not someone that's crazy with buying dumb shit. It was just always buying everything for everybody. You know, when we're going to dinner, I'm always paying for it. If we're going on vacation, I'm paying for it. So I just think just always feeling like, again, like I said earlier, obligated to take care of people because they don't have it. I think I wasted a lot of money doing that.
I'm really curious, are finances and the payments getting better for athletes over time? Are they getting worse? Do you think you maybe had a better deal back then than
No.
new athletes would have
No,
now?
Money is
More
crazier.
resources, man.
Yeah, money is
Yeah?
crazier than it's ever been. You know, these new TV deals, the deals are crazy now, but deals are going to get even crazier. So, I mean, obviously, and that kind of just comes with the, you know, as the game continues to evolve. You know, the greats before us helped us get to a certain level, and then, you know, Michael and Larry and Magic and guys took it to another level, and then the next wave comes, Shaq and Kobe, and these guys take it to another level, and the Bronze and everyone. So it continues just to rise. So, you know, the game continues. You know, you gotta have guys making $50 or $60 million a year playing basketball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why I'm glad I got 3 more boys. I got 3 chances to hit the lottery. Them, you know, I got 3 chances. So it's just, again, it just kind of comes, you know, with the evolution of the game. So, you know, although we made good money, you know, there's guys that are making more money in one season than we made in our careers.
Yeah.
You know, so it's the game has evolved.
What do you?
I was just going to ask, like, for a contract. I'm a little curious. There's usually a signing bonus, right? And then from there on,
Football.
it's just
That's football.
no signing bonuses. at all
Our
in the
contracts
NBA.
are fully guaranteed once we sign.
So
Every
football,
dollar's
when you hear
guaranteed.
signing bonuses, that's normally football because their contracts aren't guaranteed besides that money they get. So you'll see a huge signing bonus, and you'll see a big deal. First of all, every deal you see for a professional athlete, you could probably cut it in half because of
Really?
taxes.
Taxes, yeah.
Taxes
Oh,
are
yeah,
huge.
yeah.
And then agents
Yeah.
and lawyers
And a bunch of
probably
fees. So cut it
15%.
in half, and then after that is where you kind of, you know, see what else is going on with your money. But yeah, it's not necessarily the level that everyone may think it's at. But again, it's still good money.
It's all guaranteed. Every player in the NBA show, even if they come in on a 10-day contract, they guaranteed for those 10 days.
And even if they get injured, if something
no matter
happens,
what.
they get into a fight, they get suspended.
Well, my whole
something.
thing is I signed a 3-year deal, you know, and I ended up winning a championship the first year of my 3-year deal. The first year of my 3-year deal, I won a championship and ended up retiring, and I still got paid for the next, you know, 2 years.
Yep.
I wasn't even playing, and I was being paid because that's, you know, that's the one great thing about the NBA is that money is guaranteed.
What is it? Just like a massive biweekly check?
Every 2 weeks,
every
twice
2
a month,
weeks.
first and the 15th.
That's pretty.
Mhm.
So
That's
you
nice,
got guys like Kobe that was making $30 million a year, and he was getting 15, one check at the beginning, and one check at the end of the season.
Really? So he was just accepting
Wow.
one check of $15 million.
That's crazy. Imagine that.
A check
Wire,
of
yeah.
15.
Yes.
What do you, like? I feel like I would be like putting it
Right.
into the machine, and my hand would just be
Yeah.
shaking.
Crazy.
And are there institutions or programs within the NBA to ensure that now people aren't going broke? Because it's a thing. I mean, everyone knows it's a thing.
I mean, again, there's things that are in place to make sure guys don't. And I think, again, this is new. So I'd probably say, like, the talk of financial literacy and it really being cool is probably started in the professional ranks, probably started around 2014, 15, 16 in that space, where locker rooms are talking about, you know, what you're investing in, or have you seen this, or have you seen that? And that never used to be the talk in the locker room. So, you know, it's newer. So, and there's more money now. So although guys are, you know, blowing money fast, I just think there's more money to come. And then there's more responsibility around teaching guys how to save your money and invest in your money, and it's a conversation now. So I don't expect to see this new generation of, whether it be entrepreneurs, athletes, entertainers, necessarily having the same struggles as, you know, people before did, because again, the conversation, there was never conversation. You guys have a whole podcast on financial literacy, pretty much, you know what I mean? This is new, you know what I mean? So the fact that it's cool and okay to listen to and okay to follow, and you have great people who have experience teaching you the game, it's less likely that you're going to fuck up, but some people still do.
Yeah. What do you think of college athletes getting paid?
Great, but I also think there needs to be something in place for the educational side of it. You know what I mean? Again, most likely they're coming from nothing. I mean, these are scholar athletes that are, you know, signing these nice NIL deals. But again, if guys in the NBA are going, you know, crazy with money, imagine, you know, you're 17 in college or 18 in college and you're getting, you know, $50, $100, $250,000, you know. So I just think there has to be some kind of education behind it and understanding, and, you know, almost like a safe haven, you know, where kids can go to kind of learn and invest and start making their money work for them, because they're getting, you know, obviously a leg up on people in the past, because we didn't get paid until you actually make it, and only 1% of people make it.
Why do you think it's only recently that financial education is taking such a priority?
The internet.
Yeah.
The internet's more popular now. So there's probably always been people probably talking about it, but it just wasn't a big deal, you know, now, but it's out there and you can see it on social media platforms. And again, it's just a cooler conversation. You know, saving money is cool now. Investing is cool now. It was, like I said, that was never anything talked about when we came in the game in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah. I feel like it's an itch that everyone has. You always want to know how much someone's making, how much money they have. It's just like something that's just so fascinating to everybody, but for some reason it was just taboo for such a long time.
Well, I just saw a thing today on Instagram as we were driving over here, like the top earning athletes, and LeBron was #1, and I think he's making like $43 million from basketball and like $80 million in endorsements.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In 1 year, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it's out there and guys are doing it. And I love to see it, because that means, you know, it's giving people who are coming up the aspiration of, well, shit, if he can get it, I can get it. You know, so I think it's cool.
Yeah, I think endorsements and investments are starting to make up a lot more money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just so fascinating to know that people could be making so much money. But like you said, like, it just still blows my mind. But in the summer, they have no money.
Because you think, like I said, if you see a contract or he's making this much a year, you cut it, you know, we're getting at least 45% is taken after taxes, fees, all that kind of stuff. And then once you get that money, you know, what are you going to do with it? So like, you see these huge, you know, pretty much a $200 million deal is like, what are you guys going to clear after that? Like 100, maybe 100 million, 110 million. You know what I mean? And then there's all kinds of fees and people you're paying and the lifestyle. And so it's not, although it sounds like that is a lot of money. That was maybe an extreme example, but, you know, you see like a $5 million contract, and then they say you're making $5 million. So some people feel like, I need to live like I'm making that much. So you're living above your means. So it's just a gamble with everybody is different.
What do you guys think? Because I heard rumor that LeBron wants to create a new team here in Las Vegas.
It's going to happen.
Love it.
Him and Shaq.
It's going to happen?
I mean, we've been hearing about it. He told, the NBA knows 9 out of 10 times if LeBron want to be involved in the team going anywhere in the world, it's going to happen.
I feel like it would immediately just be the most popular team ever. Like, I think it would be hard to compete with.
You're gonna need. I mean, you need to be good. You know, I'm a California sports fan, so I'm a Raider fan. I'm a Niner fan, but I'm a Raider fan too. And you guys got to win. Although people are great and you want to see, you want to be entertained. You still got to put a good product out there. What's the problem?
I was the first time hearing that.
I like all California teams.
No,
I just
but
have
you
my
a
favorite
49er
teams.
fan.
Yeah, no question.
So throw the Raiders out. You can't be fans of both.
Well, how are you gonna tell me what I can and can't do?
What you
I'm grown.
49ers.
But I like teams from California.
You don't like that?
Okay, so
Well, he's a Cowboy fan, so he doesn't have no one else to root for. So he gets salty all the time. Like they're winning 4-1 right now. They're gonna lose to the Eagles this weekend,
What's
and
your
it's just
record?
gonna go.
What's your record?
We're 3-2, but we're
Oh.
coming. We're on the way.
Oh.
We're on the way. We're on the way.
So why do so many athletes' careers only end after a few years? How competitive is it to stay in?
It's very competitive because you got to think it's somebody always trying to come take your job. Always somebody coming in. You got
Younger,
yep.
faster,
Hungrier.
stronger. I wouldn't say hungrier. I think that's what keeps people.
Keeps
Is
us-
the hunger.
That's what kept us 14.
Yeah, there's just always, it's like what's next. There's always someone. There's young kids that are watching you guys that I want their spot.
Yeah.
They're gonna come want your spot. So I think that's human nature. But it's just tough, man. The odds are, like I said, there's only 420, 430 guys in the league. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just like turnover every year. You're losing 100+ guys. So it's like, how can you stay? How bad do you want it?
You got some guys that come in and get that little taste the first 3 years that had the money and they can't handle it and feel like, they get complacent.
Yeah.
Okay, I got these 3 years. I don't even care about being here no more. Nah, you got guys like us that's happy to be here.
Sure.
Gonna play as long as we can.
And this is maybe the dumbest question ever, but if you win the championships, do you get a bunch of extra money, or is that basically just like
You get a team bonus.
You get a team bonus?
You got to split it between the team.
you guys got about what?
Each player,
150,000
100
each
something,
player?
around there.
Yeah. But like, so, like Jack said, you want to take care of your because the trainers and guys that help you stay throughout the season, they don't really get the bonuses. But yeah, I would say on average probably between 100 and 200,000 extra.
Yeah, you get, especially like if your team wins best record, you get more money. You know what I'm saying? You get more money. Like if the coach wins coach of the year, everybody get a little. It's more in the pot.
How do you guys invest your money right now?
Well, I'm involved in a cannabis company, Paola. I don't want to be tied down into too many things.
I have a men's grooming line called Hue for Every Man that's in Target, a fresh press juice company where we have 3 stores, and we're also online, called Vibe Health Bar. So it's kind of our version of Starbucks, but just with juice and healthy stuff. Betting company, Active Dreamers, where, we make professional sport betting. So we make, the blanket is the body and the pillow case is the head. Flour. We have the number one black flower company, Los Angeles. We serve a lot of A-listers, a lot of big A-listers. Tech, obviously tech is the wave, so I have some tech investments. I also have a cannabis investment. But just kind of learning on the fly. Again, like I said, learning on the fly and really, to me the best way to learn is, I have a lot of older people in the space that I'll just bother and lean on and take a look at this, take a look at this deal and what do you think? And what should I do? And, you do that enough, you kind of start learning as well. So
How do you get into the cannabis industry, and what's that like right now with the regulation? You're opening it up a little bit. How difficult is that?
I got lucky. One of my close friends was the CEO of our company, Al Harrington. He was playing for the Denver Nuggets in 2010, and that's when it became legal. And we were able to get a head start before everybody in the business. And being in this since 2010, we made a lot of mistakes. But we got ahead of everybody. So to the point now where we were able to, Al was able to basically be the face of athletes getting into the cannabis space. And, he's done some great things as far as creating generational wealth for different people, as far as teaching people how to get licenses in the cannabis space and how to create your own business and generational wealth. He's been a good teacher in the cannabis space, and being able to be in the space first in 2010 gave us a up on everybody. Yeah. And we was able to learn the game early to be able to be where we have our own dispensary, our dispensary in Detroit, and we have different grow houses and have our flower in different cannabis dispensaries all across the country.
Yeah. Now I heard it's difficult to collect money, and a lot of credit
Cash
card
business.
processors.
It's cash business.
Just cash.
Basically.
I've also heard stories that you're not supposed to keep too much cash because it could be
Robbed.
raided or robbed. So how do you balance the two?
Well, I mean, that's a question that Al would have to answer.
Jack just gets the brown paper bag.
Yeah, I get the brown paper bags. You know what I'm saying? Al would have to answer those questions.
Sure.
But he is basically the guy. If you besides Matt, but it's a lot of guys that's in the cannabis space for sport wise. I'm pretty sure a good 90% of those guys that went to Al and got game and on how to move and how to get into this business.
I'm just curious if you guys could maybe say like what percentage of your income comes from different sources. I want to know like how your business is broken down as far as income goes.
I would say probably the largest amount of money I'm making is from our podcast. Second is ESPN. And then outside of that, investments probably start coming in. But, most with, when you're doing startups and other stuff, you normally roll that right back into the business. So there's not a ton of money yet coming from investments. And then, through this podcast, I've been able to do a whole bunch of other stuff as far as hosting and working for other teams and a bunch of different stuff. So like kind of miscellaneous would probably round out where the rest of it comes from.
Easy. This show is 80% for me.
Really?
Yeah, because with the money from Viola, my cannabis company, I don't touch.
Yeah.
It goes back into the business.
Yeah, sure.
And the money I saved, I use that just to make sure my kids are straight and family is straight and to live. But this show is basically all I do. I do speaking engagements every now and then. I do little stuff to make money, but this is really all I do. All I really want to do.
I had no idea the podcast was doing such big numbers.
We eating.
Wow.
Well, I think what was able to help us was, our obviously we love our partner Showtime, but the first time around we kind of hit a stall in negotiations with our first deal. So I kind of went out and learned the space and kind of started talking to other companies.
Yeah.
And in the midst of that, really liked iHeart at the time. And then, obviously my loyalty was to Showtime. So when Showtime came back around and, they started making more sense with what they were talking about, I was just like, well, how can we marry the two? iHeart can handle your audio and Showtime can handle the digital side. So we were able to pretty much get double. Because we weren't just, before we were just getting Showtime money. Now we're just getting money from iHeart, which,
So they
doubles
pay
the
you
bag.
directly? And they basically have licensing over all of the content of
So
the
they
podcast?
so they have, iHeart does the audio side of it and Showtime does the digital side of it. But obviously it's a partnership, but we get two different checks from two different companies now when before we were just getting one.
How do you approach that? Is that before you started and you said, hey, we're about to start this podcast. Do you want in on it?
No,
Or
I
do
just
you
learned.
doing it already?
This whole podcast came together randomly, just with, people, a friend connecting us with Showtime and we found lightning in the bottle. So obviously our first year, we didn't make very much at all, but in our first year, we won Sports Podcast of the Year. So we knew coming into year two, I was like, all right, we're going to make money this year. So when, initially when, again, the talks had stalled, I was just like, okay, well, damn, love what I'm doing over here. But if they're not going to pay us, we need to go find someone who's going to pay us. So again, I was talking to Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeart, you name it. I was talking to all these different companies. And then when Showtime's like, okay, let's make this happen. I'm just like, okay, my loyalty is to you, but I also really love what they have, and what they told me over here. Like, how can we make these work? And since one was primarily audio and then Showtime is more of a visual company, we were able to, be partners with both.
Wow. How many followers did you have at the time when you did that deal?
Well, I know when we started with Showtime Basketball, I want to say there was a couple thousand, and now we're over 700,000 subscribers on Showtime YouTube. So, it's, and obviously there's other shows, but with all due respect, I think we were kind of the driving force behind, kind of getting that wheel rolling. And, and then now it's helping us and everyone.
That's incredible. What do you think of Joe Rogan selling to Spotify, 100 million? I think it's
dope. But when you
years,
listen to people, some people say he should have got more.
I think though he was one of the first to get such a deal at that caliber, and when you negotiated that, like you're already getting the top.
Oh, no
so
question.
there's no one.
Pat
beyond
McAfee
that,
too.
so,
Pat McAfee too got a nice deal.
He got a
I
great
think
deal.
Call Her Daddy was
$50
like
million.
50 million.
Yeah.
I
50,
feel like
like
Joe
half
Rogan
of
is
that,
yeah.
Looking
It's just
back
as soon
at
as
that deal,
new
be like,
level is set,
darn, I could've
people
gotten
then
200.
accept that you can negotiate at that level. But if someone had done $100 million deal before him, he's the biggest.
Yeah.
He could have done 152.
A lot of those people own 100% of their IP too.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the day they announced they signed him, I think their stock went up by like $1 billion. It was something nuts. So when you take his value to Spotify,
That's what I'm
it's
saying.
significant.
Some people said like he should have got more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he is a movement himself. So he's definitely a pioneer in this space. And
I haven't seen the episode, but I know he the man in the podcast.
obviously,
He's good.
You aspire to to get to a level like that where you could be set for life financially from a podcast. Who would ever thought that?
Yeah. So what's your plan to continue growing the podcast?
Live shows.
Yeah.
Live show, just creativity. I think I was talking to our team because we just started season 4, and I was just like, I feel like we set the bar in this sports space. Although we weren't the first, we set the bar, and I feel like not that everyone's caught up, but now they're in the same they're in the same book, you know. So how season 4, how do we take it to another level? Obviously more fan engagement, more live experiences, more access to us. We're traveling around doing a lot. We're here right now sitting with you guys, and we're doing NASCAR and Bubba Wallace this weekend. Thanks to our friends over at Moneyline.
Ty Gibbs.
Shout out to Moneyline.
2311.
They make the dreams happen, but we got a partner in Moneyline. But just continuing to try to, give the fans what they want. Obviously we feel like we're the core of our show, but being able to get top name guests is important too. So we continue to try to do that. But like Jack said, live shows, merch, more fan engagement, animated. We have an animated series coming. We have a cannabis line coming.
Yeah.
So just continuing to just, not just touch this space, but, how does this cover our entire ecosystem, and just be able to find different streams of revenue in different spaces through one thing.
Yeah.
I do the commentating with boxing now. Cool. So, it's a lot of stuff that's building from our podcast that we're taking advantage of. Yeah. So it's been a blessing.
Yeah.
So I got a question. If you guys could draw a pie with 3 different pieces of the pie, one is the environment in which people grow up in, one is hard work, and one is natural skill. How would you draw the percentages as far as if you want to be the best that you can be in the NBA, how big each slice of the pie occupy?
Natural skill is the whole thing to me.
I don't agree with that, but go ahead and do your pie first. Yeah. I'm not going to eat your pie.
I'm
gonna eat my own pie.
I'm going to say natural skill.
For what percentage?
All of it.
100.
Really?
For me. Because everybody has a talent and everybody has a skill. Everybody don't figure out what their talent and skill is. So once I found out my skill was basketball, that's everything to me, because that changed everybody's life, that one game. Basketball did everything. Basketball is the reason why I'm here, why my family's living good, why I'm living good. Basketball is the source to all that. So having that talent, putting that all together, that's the reason why I'm here. Without that talent, I'm not here.
So you just have one pie, no slices in it.
I got that pie, ate that pie, and I'm going to make other pies for other people.
Now, just to play devil's advocate real quick, because I know you want to answer too. Okay. What about the Ball brothers, or the son of LeBron James and stuff like that, or Shaquille O'Neal's son? It's like, they grew up in an environment. I feel like that culture played pretty hard into their ability.
They still might not make it. They might get to the NBA. They might not have a great career. They in a position where their dads can force it for them. So that might help, but still they have to go out there and play. LeBron can't go in the game.
What you're born with, that skill that you have. That's
you know what I mean. When your dad goes away, if you have that skill, you can still survive. But if you go away, if your dad goes away, you don't have the skill, you're gonna be looking for help.
I would say 10% is environment I grew up in. Never letting that hinder me, but also realizing that made me the dog I was, and have the mentality I had, and had the chip on my shoulder. I would say 40% is natural ability. I was just a super athlete when I was younger. Like, basketball wasn't even my best sport. I was a football player. I played baseball. I ran track. I'd say 40% is natural ability, and I'd say 50% is hard work. And there's a lot of guys that are talented as fuck but don't work.
Yeah.
So where are they going to go with that?
Interesting.
So
I agree.
I feel like, obviously natural talent, you have to have natural talent. You know what I mean? Like, you have to have some talent. But I mean, what are you going to do? I remember Kobe said, like, what are you going to do with that talent now? Like, how hard are you going to work? How much do you want it? And I feel like some people are very talented but don't really want it. And then you can tell.
Yeah.
And for you, Graham, if you're answering this as far as success in business and entrepreneurship,
what are the pieces you said?
So you have natural skill. So innate, just like, you're a smart person, or hard work. And then the environment that you grow up in.
Oh, geez. I'd say probably 50% natural skill, because you have to really be into what you're doing. And like both of you, it seems like you were just, you were born. And so that gives you the ability to work hard, which I would say is probably another 30%. And then 20% is the environment. But so I think hard work and natural ability could overrun your environment. Like, it could I agree. It could outweigh that.
It could be 50-50 with those two.
Right.
I agree.
So that's what I think.
What about you?
What do I think? As far as business, I'd probably say 50% hard work, 40% natural skill, and then 10% environment.
That sounds like my pie.
And you know what? You know what's? We all got the same circle around all our pies.
Yeah.
All right.
There we go.
Yeah.
And I want to hear some hot takes. You guys have not much time right now. If you guys were to say top 3 athletes to ever exist.
Top 3 athletes to ever exist.
Yep. Actually, let's say sure, to ever exist. Yeah, let's say it. Yeah.
For me, I'm going 3. I'm 3, right? I'm going Muhammad Ali, Serena Williams, Michael Jordan.
I'm gonna say LeBron James because I'm a golfer, so I say Tiger.
Okay.
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
Not number 1. He's just in the mix.
Okay, so those are all.
Yeah.
Graham.
That's interesting. I would say Tiger, Kobe. I don't know for a third though. I'll just take the top 2 for now. What about you, Jack?
I would say, this is cliche, but I'll say Bo Jackson.
Oh, good
Nice.
call.
Up there.
Nice.
I would say Michael Phelps. And I would say Michael Jordan.
I'm not
All
mad.
great picks.
And you got to think too.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
Mike
you think
Jordan,
like
yeah.
Bo Jackson, professional athlete in 2 real sports.
Any parting thoughts that you want to mention before we wrap up? Any advice to people watching? Any final thoughts that you want to get out there? Messages?
No question is a dumb question.
Okay.
That's just no question is a dumb question. If you don't know something, don't be afraid to ask. I learned that as I got older. And one thing about me, I never listen to reply. Listen to understand what you're being told.
That's interesting.
I mean, if you want it, you got to work for it. I think at the end of the day, I think everyone sees the end product and thinks, oh shit, it should be easy, but gets in the grind and they're not cut out for the grind. So whatever you're gonna get out whatever you put into it. People have to be serious about their craft, and if you love it, you got to put your all into it and manifest it and believe it, and every day get better at it.
Cool.
Thank you guys so much
really
for coming
appreciate
on.
it.
Thanks for having us, man.
Really
Thanks for having us, man. Thanks for
Fascinating
having us, bro.
episode.
Thanks for having us, bro.
Yeah.
All right. Until
With
next
that
time.
said, you guys, thanks for watching. Till next time.
Before I forget, I got to get a